I took this trip to Washington alone in October of 2022. Every fiber of me said I needed to go. Fly across the country solo. Trek into nature. See our magical Mother Earth to try to quiet the screaming in my heart. I saw extraordinary beauty. I sobbed amongst the trees. I even stoked a wood-burning stove to keep warm. And in every moment, I did not feel alone. I am more or less anti-spiritual, but even in the total black of darkness, deep in the woods or back roads of the mountains, I did not feel alone. This trip was the catalyst to me taking my grief processing seriously. And I'm grateful I listened to my heart, telling me that I had to go. Washington will hold an incredibly meaningful place in my heart because of this. 1 year ago tonight, I went to bed, feeling a bit lost, feeling like I knew I needed to make hard decisions in my life, feeling overwhelmed, but I fell asleep hard. I was exhausted. Maybe tomorrow would be better, and I'd have more clarity and strength. I woke up in what felt like a fever dream, told Dad was being taken in the ambulance and being airlifted. They thought it might be a stroke. They were up north at the campground, so I packed a small bag. I could be at the camper the next day to help sort out winterizing. Of course he'd be okay. Of course I was overreacting by driving at 3 a.m. to get to Fargo. I didn't want Mom frazzled going through all the doctor stuff without having someone there to hear maybe what meds he would need the next day, and so forth. The sun was rising, and the sky was on fire. Halfway through the drive, Mom called. I pulled over on the interstate shoulder. The doctors said the brain bleed was so catastrophic, he would probably not talk, walk, eat, live on his own ever again. What do we do? We know exactly what he would want. No question. 0 questions. But what about the rest of us? What about our plans? What about leaving in a few days to go on our big California adventure? What about more laughs? What about more hugs? What about more time? Just a little tiny bit. Just a minute more of time. I think I would take even shouting across a busy grocery store, "Hey, Ricky Bobby," over the complete finality of this thing that we now had to gulp down so goddamn suddenly. Everyone arrived in Fargo. We took the morning to say goodbye to his physical body that had helped us, carried us, danced with us. And that was it. A whole year. This loss was freeing. It's weird, but This monumentous wave slammed me into the rocks, and while it left me breathless, it tore every sense of mattering I had once had away. Nothing mattered. Well, because nothing does matter. Not in the senseless doom kind of way, but a lot of our daily life, a lot of our plans, our worries, our stresses simply do not matter. You give meaning to things. They don't. So the things I was wrapped in because of either anxiety or shame were nearly drowned too in this crippling event. What really matters when you peel away the perils of consumerism and culture and expectation? Where is your joy and your dreams and your magic when you realize your time is a blip on a teensy spinning rock in the vastness of space? I was given freedom and power to rebuild whatever I wanted to now. But who am I when nothing matters? Who am I going to be when the person I was doesn't exist anymore? I'm stripped down into a version of myself and versions of myself that I haven't known since I was a kid, or maybe that I've never known. Asking questions I have never had the confidence to ask. What are you doing? What are you afraid to ask? What are you afraid of pursuing and quitting and lighting a fucking fire to and indulging in? I have always liked having a steady flow of gratitude and contentment running through my body. And these wild surges of anger and heavy, heavy sadness, they can dig themselves in like termites for hours or days that strike like lightning with no warning. They have me feel off balance and honestly mentally unwell. I try to remind myself that this is just what form grief is taking with me, and it's consuming. You also cannot bypass or dodge the ugly, dark bits of grief by smothering it with gratitude. Grief and gratitude can live together, but one cannot overshadow the other completely. It's great to be grateful. It's great to know that the loss is heavy because that person, that thing meant so much. But you can also be greatly and gravely sad about it. Knowing that some days grief will crawl down my throat, suck out the oxygen once in my lungs, and pour in vast blackness, but at the very least, the absolute minimum, I have survived it so far. And that some days I will laugh so hard and beam with such bright, joyful light that these terrible days will feel miles away. And rest. When in doubt, I've made space for myself to just rest and just be. I do not need to rack up credits in order to grant myself downtime. I can just rest. You can't escape the amount of grief that's paired with this loss. You have to tend to it. At some point, if you are burying it or ignoring it or busying yourself into delay, it will topple you and grab you by the chest and slam you onto the fucking ground. You can't escape the grief. So what now? The next 365 are ahead. The amount of grief is correlated to the amount of love. So we will just need to keep adjusting to how we move forward, knowing he won't be in this caravan with us, but that we get to move forward because we are alive and we get to make choices every day that bring us joy and peace and fulfillment and hopefully laughter.